The smartest thing this trailer does is show confidence right away. It does not hide Eternia. It does not water down Skeletor. It does not pretend the world needs to be fixed before modern audiences can accept it. Instead, it feels like the movie understands that the exact thing that once made Masters of the Universe feel wild, colorful, and larger than life is the thing that still gives it power now. That matters because too many fantasy adaptations spend half their runtime apologizing for the material they are adapting. This one does not look apologetic at all. It looks like it wants to grab everything weird, oversized, and gloriously toy box shaped about this universe and throw it straight onto the biggest screen possible. Nicholas Galitzine's Prince Adam immediately becomes part of that gamble. The trailer frames him in a version of the story where he starts on Earth, sent away to hide from Skeletor's darkness, while the power sword ends up there too. On paper, that is the kind of change that could make longtime fans nervous, and honestly, I get that. Anytime a major adaptation opens by shifting core mythology, alarm bells should ring. But here's why I do not think that idea automatically sinks the film. The trailer makes it feel like a launching point, not a replacement. Earth looks like the prologue. Eternia still looks like the main course. The human world angle seems designed to give Adam a starting point before the movie throws him back into the cosmic insanity where he belongs. And once the trailer pivots toward Eternia, that is where the movie really starts to come alive. The sword, the armor, the transformation into He-Man, the return to a world on the edge, the assembling of a heroic team around him. That is the material people actually came for. And the trailer seems to know it. You can feel it speeding toward the good stuff. That is important because the worst thing this movie could have done would have been to bury its fantasy identity under too much earthbound setup. Instead, it looks like the film is using that setup as a ramp. Once Adam steps into the full myth, the trailer starts selling exactly what Masters of the Universe should be selling: a war for Eternia that feels huge, theatrical, and just absurd enough to be fun. Jared Leto Skeletor is probably the biggest make or break element here. And so far, he looks like the trailer's strongest weapon. This version of Skeletor does not appear toned down, reimagined into some bland serious villain, or stripped of the theatrical menace that made him iconic. He looks like Skeletor should look in live action, arrogant, darkly operatic, visually loud, and fully aware that he belongs in a world where every conflict should feel like destiny screaming at destined. Why? That is the right choice. Skeletor should never feel ordinary. He should feel like the kind of villain who wakes up every morning already halfway through a monologue. From the marketing so far, this movie clearly understands that, and the trailer doubles down on him as a genuine event-level bad guy. What I also like is the supporting cast. Camila Mendes as Tila and Idris Elba as Man-at-Arms feel like exactly the kind of grounded Dash, but Dash still Dash larger Dash than Dash life choices this story needs. A movie like this cannot survive on the hero and villain alone. It needs a supporting team that makes the world feel inhabited rather than costumed. Tila has to bring fire. Man-at-Arms has to bring authority. Evelyn and the Sorceress have to feel like they belong to the same heightened mythology without turning everything into noise. The trailer gives just enough of that balance to suggest the filmmakers know these characters are not background decoration. They are part of the machine that makes Eternia feel mythic. And honestly, one of the best signs in this whole trailer is how unafraid it seems of the franchise's built-in absurdity. Travis Knight apparently talked about embracing the inherent absurdity of Masters of the Universe, and that is exactly the mindset this adaptation needed. Because here is the truth: if you try to make He-Man cool by sanding off everything silly, he stops being He-Man. If you try to make Eternia respectable by muting the bright edges, strange creatures, dramatic names, and toyetic weirdness, then you are not preserving the franchise. You are draining the blood out of it. The trailer does not feel drained. It feels energized by the fact that this world is, in the best possible way, a little ridiculous, and that is why the comparison to the 1987 live-action movie matters so much. That film has a cult following now, and I get why. There is charm in its ambition, and Dolph Lundgren remains a memorable physical presence. But that version always felt constrained by budget, by compromise, and by the fact that it spent too much time away from the fully realized fantasy fans actually wanted. It could not bring in everything. It had to leave too much on the table. Battle Cat missing in action was the perfect symbol of the whole problem. Now, nearly 40 years later, this new movie looks like it finally has the scale, technology, and confidence to stop making excuses. And let's be honest, bringing Battle Cat to live action is not a minor detail. That is one of those franchise-defining elements that tells fans whether the movie really understands the assignment or not. You cannot keep promising Masters of the Universe and then keep hiding the giant green war cat like he is an optional extra. If this movie is finally delivering him, along with the stranger corners of Eternia's creature and warrior roster, that is a huge signal. It says the filmmakers are not just picking the safe parts of the mythology, they are trusting the audience to come with them into the full fantasy chaos that applies to the wider roster too. Seeing characters like Mechanic, Ram Man, Spikor, Goat Man, Evil Lyn, and the sorceress integrated into the look of the film suggests a movie that understands how important visual specificity is to The's property. Masters of the Universe should not feel generic. It should feel like every corner of the screen was designed by somebody who grew up smashing action figures together and decided cinematic dignity was overrated. That spirit is all over this trailer. It does not feel embarrassed by plastic-born mythology. It feels thrilled by it. Now, none of this guarantees the movie actually works. A great trailer is still just a trailer, and fantasy films can fall apart very fast if the script cannot support the scale they promise. The Earth opening could still drag. The tonal balance could still wobble. The action could still turn into CGI soup. These are real dangers. But I would be lying if I said this first look did not win a lot of goodwill. Because at minimum, it appears to understand the most important thing. A Masters of the Universe movie should feel huge, strange, colorful, heroic, and a little bit insane. That alone already puts it in a better position than a lot of people expected. And maybe that is why this trailer works so well. It does not ask permission to be a Masters of the Universe movie. It just is one.